like Sylvia said, this is an incredible honor for me to be with 5 other women who are going to tell their story. And as I see the adults here, I know the story you will see and hear and listen to are your stories. And the young people who are here, who do not realize what parents and adults do to survive a country who does not know the value who we are as Mexicanos. So who am I? Being Mexicana is who I am. I was born in Chicago. My mother was born in Fort Madison, Iowa. My dad in Tototlan, Jalisco. My mother, when she went to school, my mother's name, by the way, is Soledad. When she went to register to school, the teacher couldn't say her name and changed her name. And her name became Shirley. Now imagine what we are about tonight and forever, I hope, is about who we are and our identity. Imagine if you were 5 years old, you're Soledad, and all of a sudden you're Shirley. I didn't realize that that happened to my mother until I was an adult. And I felt so bad. My father came to the United States, like many of us, wanting a better life for their family and their children. But my father had another reason to come, because his mother, my grandmother, Juanita, came to the United States because they were in Jalisco, there was the War of the Cristeros. The Catholic Church was being persecuted. And so they were killing people, not letting people practice their religion. And so they came. He was, how do you call it, a farm worker. He picked beets. But he was a man of integrity. So they come to the United States. And, oh, by the way, they were married for 72 years. Con la misma mujer. Y con el mismo hombre. That is not easy to do in this stage of age. And so, con orgullo, yo soy la hija del señor Arturo y la señora Soledad. I am 77 years old. And I don't want you young people to write me off, because I'll write you off. But what I want to do tonight has to do with 2 things. Identity, what makes me who I am, what makes you who you are, and also this whole thing called social justice, doing the right thing. My heart broke when we were raised at 843 West Cabrini in Halston. But my dad bought an empty lot. Every Sunday after Mass, we would go to the empty lot, and my dad said, one day, vamos a tener una casa aquí, we're going to play, and blah, blah, blah. So after a while, you kind of get tired of going to every Sunday. But anyway, it came true. We moved from 843 West Cabrini, guess where? Market Park area, 72nd and St. Louis. Now imagine taking me out from Cabrini and Halston to 72nd and St. Louis. Market Park, where you had the white racists on 71st Street. And when I went to school, I went to St. Adrian. And this is the first encounter I had with racism. When I was in the playground, a group of kids came around me, and they looked at me and they said, "What are you?" Where am I? I said, and their tone was not friendly. And they said and looked at me and said, "Let me say this word." It's a horrible word. But I knew I didn't know at the time what it meant, but the tone of it hurt me very, very much because I knew I wasn't in control here. They said to me, "Are you?" And my mouth dropped. I went home crying. My dad looked at me and said, "Why? What happened?" And so I know he was getting mad. But when I told him, it got more mad. I just said, "Look, don't you ever, ever, ever forget you're Mexican." And so that fire in my belly about who I am comes from my parents and my father. My father said, "Look, we bring to the table our values, our language, our history, our culture, how do you say that? No one can take that away from us. We bring an ethic, and una ética, that no one can take away from us." And so I looked at him, and I gathered myself, and I just, I still was not quite with it. But that lesson of who I was continues to feed in my soul. It continues a fire in my belly that I will beat that. You know what? And usually I say those words a lot. Okay? Because I will not tolerate anything that is aggressive, that is discriminatory to us as an individual or as a human being. And we have to be risk takers. We can't just say, and walk away. You have a challenge. In 5 years, how old will I be? I said, did I tell you how old I was? 77, so 82, más o menos. You guys, in 5 years, where are you going to be? And what are you going to be doing? You have to think and reflect as you hear the stories today to say, how am I going to make a difference? Am I going to do the right thing? And this is where I begin my story. So when I said to myself, what happened here? What about these other people, the white people, the Italians, the Irish, But what happened was, this country said to us, you have to forget who you are. We cannot forget who we are. Sylvia brought out the name of the man I don't want even to say, okay? It is intolerable that we as Mexicans even have to listen to that man and what he says about a wall. So we have a lot to do. And someone said to me, well, how did you get politicized? And then even then again, I said, what the hell is that, politicized? Can't get it. Politicized. I don't know what that means. And so I began to understand it when I said to myself, I have to make a difference. I have to change things. Things cannot remain. Chicago Public Schools, for example, when in the 70s and in the 80s, we were in closets being taught. We were under stairs being taught. We were in overcrowded classes when we were being taught. We were told we had to take tests in English when our dominant language was Spanish. We were not respected. When our parents registered to go to school, they asked, the clerks would say, are you a resident? And so the parents stepped back and said, oh my gosh, she's asking if I have papers. And what happened? Many of our children were kept out of school. Many were kept out of school for more than a year because parents were afraid take their kids to school. And that was unacceptable. So I'll have to be honest with you. I challenged the Chicago Public Schools. I challenged the state superintendent of schools. And believe it or not, I became a policymaker for the Chicago Public Schools between 1974 and 1980. I was a mocosa. I was. And I didn't even know what the hell the policymaker meant. All I knew is that someone submitted my name. I was on the Board of Education, and I had to do a lot of homework. And this is where in the era you had desegregation going on. You had bilingual education coming out, saying that our kids had the right to have teachers who were Spanish speaking. And so we then began to start a war. And the war was, we want our children to have a quality education. We want them to have materials in Spanish. We want them to learn that we have a history also. I remember I went to Maria High School, and they would like to hear this, but I took Spanish, Spanish 101. Well, the teacher was Spanish, de España. And I would get in trouble all the time. All the time because I wasn't person. And for those of you who don't know, I was born with a speech problem, an impediment. I was born with a cleft palate. So I went through school, elementary, my high school, and a year of college at St. Xavier with a cleft palate. What is a cleft palate? You have a hole in your mouth. Your palate is split in half. And that was corrected when I was around 22, 23. And so I had a hard time in school. School was not simple. And my learning style was not memorizing, believe me. I was a visual learner. And for the teachers who are here, they understand there are different ways of learning, and that doesn't mean you're dumb. But I was a dropout. I was a dropout of St. Xavier School. Well, that didn't worry me too much because I decided to stay home for 6 months. And I painted my bedroom orange. And I put on my door, Mexicano. And that meant stay out of my room. And literally, Mexicano is my hut. So that means just don't mess with my space. And I tell you that story because my father then said this was enough. He let me be for a while. And he dragged me to what was known as the Cardinals Committee for the Spanish Speaking. That was probably one of the few agencies who helped the Spanish speaking community. And he took me to Carmen Mendoza and he said, here, put it to work. And Carmen dijo, I don't have a job for her. My dad said, who said you were going to pay her? She said, you volunteer. Volunteer, huh? So I went to go for. I go for this, I go for that. Until finally, Carmen said, well, okay, this one has some sense to her. And I began to do some of the advocacy work that was being done by the committee. One of those was, in those days, if you had a notary public, you could give a letter to a person and someone could come to Mexico, así, boom. And I think we talked about that a little bit, okay? Beatriz. And so that happened. But I tell you that story because I want to bridge what happened in my stay at the Cardinals Committee. So many people came in. They would talk about they couldn't get housing, they couldn't get jobs. They didn't have money to bury their people. And it was the structure of how we're governed. The city, the state, the feds, and even the Catholic Church. I'm Roman Catholic, so don't get tight. But even there is a denial that no merecemos what all human beings merit. I look at the numbers that have been deported. It's over 1 million individuals, Mexicanos, who have been deported under getting the signal. So that is unacceptable. And I haven't talked to you about Alivio Medical Center. And why did Alivio Medical Center become? Because I was pissed about not having access to health care and decided to do something about it. I am saying to you, I am pissed about Donald Trump, and every one of here should be adamant and get everybody out there to vote. And I'm telling you, I'm not, you're not supposed to talk about politics, but I'm saying to you, you have to have the fire in the belly. Don't accept no. Don't drive your own car. People want to plant ideas in you. Yeah, maybe I'll take it, maybe I won't, but I'm going to get there. You got to drive your own car. Don't let people plant ideas that you don't want. And you will make a difference. All I know that as I have gone throughout, my role models have been my parents. My dad got the Oakley Award. And the Oakley Award, and I say this because there's a purpose, is to that person here in the USA who has done everything they can for the Mexican community. I am proud to say that I also received the Oakley Award. I wasn't happy that because I got it, but I was so proud that I could stand next to my father and say, I received it. So, emotions, anger, fire in your belly, don't accept as you know what from anybody. Being Mexicana is the most wonderful gift that I have received.